You know, if owning a piece of waterfront real estate in the state of Florida has always been a dream of yours, then Cape Coral is the promised land. We're here in Southwest Florida. Cape Coral has over 400 miles of navigable waterways in the city, and many of those offer Gulf access so you can get out by boat to the Gulf of America. So you can jump in a boat right behind your house, go out, go fishing all day, go to maybe the beaches or go out and have dinner or drinks, and then park that boat right behind your house when you're done for the day. So you really should take a look at Cape Coral. We've got more of that type of waterfront real estate than anywhere else in the state of Florida. And so today's video, I'm going to kind of give you an introduction to what Gulf access real estate looks like here in the city of Cape Coral. I'm going to kind of give you an overview of the different areas of the city that offer that type of real estate. And we're going to talk about the different types of Gulf access real estate. We're also going to talk about the pricing. The current market has been a little bit soft and prices are have kind of come down in the last couple of years, especially for Gulf access homes. So it may be a great time to jump into a piece of waterfront real estate here in the city of Cape Coral. But if you're not familiar with who I am, my name is Dustin Guthrie. I've lived here in Cape Coral with my wife and our 3 little kids for the last 20 years. I've been a full-time real estate broker here in Cape Coral for almost 20 years now. And I do a video like this every single week on this channel where I just give you a lot of really good information for the folks that are interested in Southwest Florida. So maybe if you're considering moving to Cape Coral or moving to Fort Myers, or even if you live here now and you just kind of want to keep up to speed on all the latest and greatest information on Cape Coral and Southwest Florida, I'm going to invite you to hit the subscribe button up there so you can be around for these videos every week. I think you'll get a lot of great information out of these videos. Just try to create a lot of value for the folks that watch this channel, because I know if I can do that, then odds are when the time does come and you do need a realtor here in Southwest Florida, if you're buying or selling a property, maybe you'll remember me and reach out. I would love to hear from you. Of course, my contact information is right there on the screen, but it's also down in the description of this video. You can call, text, or email me anytime. Love to hear from you. I always enjoy hearing from folks that watch these videos. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into this. Let's start off with kind of some of the different areas that offer Gulf access here in the city of Cape Coral. All right, so if you're not familiar with the city of Cape Coral, our city is divided into 4 different quadrants. We have the Northeast, we have the Northwest, we have the Southeast, and we have the Southwest. And all 4 quadrants have waterfront canals throughout those areas, but we're focusing on specifically Gulf access real estate today, and there are only 3 quadrants of the 4 that offer Gulf access real estate. We've got the Southeast, the Southwest, and the Northwest. So the Southeast and the Southwest offer Gulf access via the Caloosahatchee River. Those canal systems get into the Caloosahatchee River, which is the big river that runs between the city of Cape Coral in the north and Fort Myers in the south. And that Caloosahatchee River kind of dumps out south of Pine Island on the map. So you're a little bit closer once you get out to the open Gulf to places like Sanibel Island and Fort Myers Beach, so the public beaches that are down there. So again, the Southeast and the Southwest quadrants get you that Gulf access on the southern side of Pine Island. So the Northwest section of Cape Coral, there's only one section of canals up there in the Northwest that offers Gulf access, and those canal systems get out one way into Matlacha Pass, which is a little bit towards the northern side of Pine Island. So you're closer to areas like Bokeelia at the tip of Pine Island and Key Acosta State Park, Upper Captiva, Gasparilla, Boca Grande Pass, and Charlotte Harbor up there in the northern sections of our Southwest Florida area. So a little bit different in terms of the Gulf access opportunities. You maybe have a little more inshore fishing in the Northwest areas, where it's a little bit quicker access out to the open Gulf of America from places like the Southeast and the Southwest. But certainly you could be pretty far up the river if you get up towards the more eastern parts of the city in the Southeast particularly. So you got a little bit farther of a trip down the Caloosahatchee River until you actually get out into the open Gulf. So that's something you need to be cognizant of while you're shopping for Gulf access real estate here in the city of Cape Coral. You need to figure out where you're going to get out and what you ultimately like to do when you do get out. If you're going to be somebody that likes to spend more time offshore, then maybe the Southeast or the Southwest is a little bit more attractive for you, maybe a little bit less time steaming out into that open water versus the Northwest, where you're going to get into that backwater a little bit easier from that location up there. So keep that in mind. So that's the basic overviews of the 3 different areas that offer Gulf access real estate here in the city of Cape Coral. Let me talk next about the different types of Gulf access real estate. We really have 2, so let's get into that. So Gulf access real estate in the city of Cape Coral can really be divided into two different types. We have direct Gulf access, sometimes that's called sailboat access. That's really usually pretty close to open water and you don't have to go under any bridges to get out. That's why it's called direct access. So in other words, you can have a pretty big boat usually behind your house in those areas of direct Gulf access canals. The reason they're called sailboat access, obviously sailboats have a big mast oftentimes, and you really can't get that big tall mast underneath the bridges that are in the city of Cape Coral, so you need that direct Gulf access or sailboat access. And those properties generally run a little bit more expensive. It's a little more in-demand type of waterfront real estate that we have here in the city, and as such it comes with a little bit higher costs. But we do have canal systems that go way back into the more central areas of the city, and they are behind one or more bridges. Those are going to be called indirect access. Of course they're indirect access because you do have to go under one or more bridges to get out. The bridges that we have in the city of Cape Coral are usually going to vary at high tide anywhere from 8 to 12 feet high, maybe 8.6 to 11.6 or something like that. So you can still accommodate a pretty good sized boat, especially day boats and things like that that you're just going out to spend the day on. But if you have a bigger, 40, 50 foot yacht or something like that, or certainly if you have a sailboat, you're probably going to be limited to the direct Gulf access real estate that we have along the coast of Southeast and Southwest and Northwest Cape Coral. And of course that brings up the next point, is the time that it takes to get out to open water. So a whole lot of the value of the Gulf access real estate that you'll be looking at is directly tied to how long you have to travel through those canals. All of the canals, the Gulf access canals in the city of Cape Coral, are idle speed only. There are no wake zones. So you got to go relatively slow through those canals. In some cases, especially like in the Northwest, in the upper reaches of the Northwest and the upper reaches of the Southwest, some of those canals can be an hour and a half away from open water. So the price point that you're looking at might be really, really attractive, but you got to pay attention to how far you got to kind of squiggle around in those canal systems before you finally get out into open water. And if you're somebody that likes to get out on the water every day, obviously you'd probably want something that's a little bit less time spent idling through those canals before you get to go have your fun offshore or to the beaches or fishing or whatever you're going to do out there. So that's something to keep in mind, whether or not you're going to want direct Gulf access or indirect Gulf access. Of course, the indirect's a little bit less expensive, a little bit more expensive for the direct Gulf access, and it all depends on your priority of what you like to do in terms of boating, the type of boat you're going to have and what you're going to be doing while you're out on the water here in Southwest Florida. So let's talk about insurance when it comes to Gulf access properties. A lot of the folks that are moving to the area are concerned about insurance. Maybe you've seen some negative press on insurance rates in the state of Florida. And I got to tell you, a lot of the people that come down here are pleasantly surprised at the actual rates of insurance that we have down here. They're thinking it's going to be wildly expensive. And in fact, it's a little more affordable than maybe your assumptions were led to believe. But let's just talk about it real quick. Really, in terms of homeowners insurance, when we do have two types of insurance that we're worried about. Homeowners insurance, which covers your windstorm coverage, your hurricane coverage, things like that. And then we have flood insurance. But let's talk about homeowners insurance first. The homeowners insurance, at least as it pertains to Gulf access properties, are virtually identical to off-water properties. So really the rates of homeowners insurance that you're going to pay on a Gulf access property have largely to do with the actual property itself. So if it's a big property and it costs more to replace that property, obviously you're going to have more coverage and your rates are going to be higher. If the property has a new roof or a newer roof on it, you're going to get discounts for that. If the property has some form of windstorm protection on the windows and doors, like either shutters or even better would be hurricane impact glass, you're going to get a significant discount on your homeowner's insurance for things like that. And then, of course, it has a little more to do with if you have a claims history. So, if, for instance, in the last few years, you've maybe had a big homeowner's insurance claim on another property that you've owned, that will be taken into consideration and you'll pay a little bit higher rate versus somebody that's never had a homeowner's insurance claim. So there's several variables there. Generally speaking, depending on the type of property you're buying, homeowners insurance could be anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 most on average. Now let's talk about flood insurance, because that's a little bit different situation. There's not really much you can do to control the rates of flood insurance out here. It has largely to do just where the property is located and the age of the home. Obviously, older homes built maybe in the 60s or 70s were built to an elevation that was considerably less than what they're required to be built to nowadays, so that affects your flood insurance rates. And I would say above 99% of the properties here in the city of Cape Coral that have flood insurance have it through FEMA. It's through the National Flood Insurance Program. That program caps you out at $250,000 in flood coverage. So if a flood comes into your house, they're going to pay up to $250,000 towards the specific flood damages. If it's wind damage, like to the roof or something, that's your homeowner's insurance. So this is just flooding. And, if you think back a few years ago to Hurricane Ian, which was in September of 2022, it really affected our area. That was in some cases, they say it was 1 in 500 year storm, really terrible storm. And it really affected the barrier islands. They had a significant storm surge out there, dozen feet or so out on Fort Myers Beach of storm surge that came in and really devastated that area. Not so much in Cape Coral. The flooding that we did see in Cape Coral was usually pretty limited to the southernmost areas of the city, again, in that AE special flood hazard area. And mostly the ones that did see flood damage were ones that were built, 60s, 70s, maybe 1980s, so older homes at that lower elevation. And the flooding that we did see in those particular homes was usually around maybe a foot of depth in the house, so it wasn't nearly as bad as it was on the barrier islands, but it's something to take into consideration. And those flood insurance rates currently, if you had to go out and get a brand new policy for a home, again, especially built in 1960s or 70s, maybe it's on a direct access canal in that really higher risk AE area, it could be anywhere from $2,500, $3,000 a year all the way up to $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a year, depending on the property and the location. So it's something you need to be cognizant of. And actually, on a good note, the city of Cape Coral is one of the only areas in Southwest Florida that has any meaningful number of Gulf access homes that are not in that AE flood zone. They're actually higher. They're in a zone called the X500 or the X zone, and basically all that means is FEMA has designated the X500, for instance, as having a 0.2% annual chance of inundation flooding, so that's a 1 in 500 year event. And in the vast majority of cases, even if you get a mortgage on one of those properties, you're not going to be required to have flood insurance at all. So that's one of the significant perks of looking for Gulf access homes in the city of Cape Corals. We have a pretty substantial number of those types of properties that are built up higher than the AE flood zone, mostly in the southeast on the western side of Del Prado Boulevard. But flood insurance is something you got to watch out for. There are instances where you can maybe take over a policy where a seller has had that policy for a long, long time. There was a big change in 2021 for those FEMA policies. If that seller has had a flood insurance policy that predates that 2021 change, you can assume that older rate, and that older rate is oftentimes much lower than the current rates is. Now, the flip side of that is it's a lower rate because they can the increase that they can do every single year is capped at 18%. So you're getting a lower rate, but that rate is more than likely going to go up every year until it reaches those current flood insurance rates. So it's one of the things that I do in my business for my clients, especially when they are buyer clients, is we're always checking those flood insurance rates. If you are in that AE flood zone, you got to make sure you know what you're getting into. Got to make sure, especially if you're getting a mortgage and you're going to be required to have flood insurance, you know exactly what that flood insurance is going to be, so you have that expectation and you're not taking a big surprise when you get that flood insurance bill and it's $5,000 or whatever it is a year. So there's some nuances to that, and I'm happy to go over that with you. Again, that's something I do for my clients every single day here in Cape Coral, especially for the Gulf access homes. But overall, I think we really beat expectations normally when we have folks that are coming in from out of the area that expect their total insurance bill when it comes to homeowners in flood to exceed $10,000, $12,000 a year. Usually it's a little bit less than that and a little more manageable. But nevertheless, it's something to think about. It's something you need to make sure you're educated about, and that's what I can do for you. So make sure you get a hold of me before you start looking for a Gulf access home here in the city of Cape Coral. All right, so let's talk about the prices you can expect to pay for Gulf access real estate here in the city of Cape Coral. As you may be aware, our area is going through a market correction right now. It's a pretty good sized buyer's market. Prices have fallen, especially for golf access homes, maybe anywhere from 10 to 15% in the last 12, 18 months or so. And people are getting really good deals, especially compared to what these prices were coming out of the pandemic, 2021, 2022. So the prices are looking a lot better on these golf access properties. But let's just start out by talking about some averages. If you take all of the golf access homes, single family homes that have sold so far this year, and I'm recording this video at the end of September 2025, so far the median price for golf access homes in the city of Cape Coral, the whole city, $703,000, just higher than $700,000. That's the right in between price. Now you can find golf access homes in the city of Cape Coral all the way down in the 300s. 300s is going to be usually a pretty old golf access home without a pool, maybe small and needing quite a bit of work. Usually when they get under 400,000, they're either in really rough shape or they sell really quickly. And then of course you can take that price all the way up to $6-7+ million. So you can find there's a price for everybody here, that's for sure, for golf access homes. But right in the middle, $703,000 for the entire city of Cape Coral. But let's talk about some of the different quadrants. Let's start off with the Southeast. So the Southeast, if you're not aware, Cape Coral, the development in Cape Coral largely started in the late 1950s. So there weren't a lot of homes out here at all until the late 1950s. They started building in the Southeast and then they kind of expanded outward from there. So particularly the golf access homes in the Southeast, most of the ones that you'll see there are a little bit older. There are some new homes there, but they're kind of fewer and farther between. Most of the ones you'll see in the Southeast are 1960s, 70s, 80s, maybe a few 90s, but mostly 60s, 70s, 80s. And as a result, the prices for golf access homes tend to be a little bit less in these areas because those homes are a little bit older. So the median price for golf access homes in the Southeast this year so far has been $599,495, basically just under $600,000 for the Southeast. If we move to the Southwest location, those properties are oftentimes a little bit newer, and there are some really high-end areas down there by Cape Harbor and Tarpon Point in the Southwest. So maybe a few little nicer areas where they've got some really high prices. But that median price jumps up by $200,000 when you get over to the Southwest. The median price there was $799,900, just under $800,000 so far this year. And then if you get into the Northwest, same exact situation. You know, the homes that are 60s, 70s, 80s, in the Southeast, you go over to the Southwest, and most of those are 1990s, 2000s, mid-2000s. Most of the homes in the Northwest are really, really new, 5 to 10 years old. So we're seeing a lot of newer homes built, maybe since 2020 or something up there. And as a result, the median prices are a lot higher in the Northwest. So $904,450. Just under or just above $905,000, $904,450 was the median price in the Northwest so far this year. So again, it doesn't mean that there's better golf access property up in the Northwest or more expensive golf access property. In fact, you can find vacant lots up there that are a little bit less expensive because a lot of those areas in the Northwest are still on well and septic, versus, let's say, the Southwest. So if you're just buying a vacant lot, you can expect to probably pay a little bit more in the Southwest or the Southeast versus the Northwest. But really the driving reason between this discrepancy and the reason the prices are higher in the Northwest versus the Southwest and the Southwest versus the Southeast is entirely due to the age of the homes. So, the access isn't better in the Northwest versus the Southwest. The access in the Southwest isn't necessarily better than the Southeast. It's usually just has to do with the age of the properties up there. But let's talk about those values that I just gave you was for all different types of golf access, everything combined together. But we talked about the two types, the direct golf access, the sailboat access, and the indirect access that are, behind those fixed bridges. And as you can imagine, the direct access costs a little bit more. You're going to pay a little bit more of a premium to be closer to open water and not have to go under any bridges. Just because, again, you don't have those restrictions on the size of boat that you basically can have in those direct access canals versus the ones that are behind those bridges that could be anywhere from, 8 feet to 12 feet tall. But in the entire city of Cape Coral, the median price for direct golf access homes in 2025 so far, $743,000. And if you look at the indirect golf access homes in the city of Cape Coral this year so far, $689,000. So, you know, $50,000, $60,000 more on average for that direct Gulf access versus the indirect access. So if you're somebody, again, that doesn't put a really high priority on having the huge boat behind your house, or doesn't put a priority on having 5 minutes out to open water or something like that, maybe you can take the same price and buy a little bit nicer home that's behind one of those bridges in one of those indirect access canals, and either save yourself some money or get yourself a little bit better home versus paying the premium for the direct Gulf access. And the other thing is that we just talked about flood insurance. A lot of these indirect access properties, particularly in the southeast, are the areas where you can find Gulf access homes that are not in that AE special flood hazard area. So that's another thing to consider. I did want to just touch on condos. We got a ton of condos here in the city of Cape Coral, and condos, actually the prices on condos have fallen significantly more than the single family homes. In some cases they're 20-25% down from what they were a couple years ago. But we have plenty of Gulf access condos, and the median price for Gulf access condos so far this year, $212,500, so just over $200,000. There's a couple different types of condos. Most of the Gulf access condos do not have individual private boat slips. So you're buying a property, usually in this price range, $212,000 would probably not have a deeded boat slip with the condo unit. And they would have probably a shared dock that, you know, residents can pull up on a first come, first served basis, but maybe no boat lift. It's really not a great idea to keep your boat in the water for any extended period of time in a Gulf access canal. As you can probably imagine, with the salt water, you can have barnacles growing on the bottoms of it, and that's really not going to be good for the hull or the motor for that matter. So if you wanted to tack on a little bit more to this $212,000, you can find a few Gulf access condos that do have their own deeded slips where you can have your boat there with a lift on it, and you can pull it right up, pull it out of the water, and walk right into your condos. So that's definitely another option, and it's going to be significantly less money than the single family homes, although you'll have that HOA fee every month. But that pretty much takes care of Gulf access prices. As you can tell, you know, these prices are definitely down from where they were a couple of years ago. So I think there's an opportunity right now to get into this market. And, you know, I hope this video has been pretty reasonably informative for you. Hopefully you learned something that maybe you didn't know before you did watch it. And if you did get something out of it, do me a favor and hit the like button for me. It just helps me out, helps the channel out. And also, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you can be around for these videos every week. We're not doing videos like this every single week. Some weeks we're looking at really fun Gulf access real estate, or you know, once a month I do a Cape Coral market report. It's a longer form video where we really dive into the statistics of the Cape Coral real estate market. So if you're trying to pay attention to that, that's a really, really great resource for you. And again, I do that every month. The next week I'll be doing it for October. So make sure you're subscribed and you tune in for these videos every single week. Would love to have you around. And if I can do anything for you, of course, you know how to get a hold of me. My contact information is right there. Call, text, email me. Would love to hear about your individual situation and find out how I can help you out with that, and would love to hear from you. So thanks so much for being here. I do appreciate your time, and I'll see you in the next video here in just a few days.
Like and subscribe. Just kidding.